were some moments where I remember like getting big laughs from adults, but always interesting in these things because you don't want to sound egotistical, but I don't remember a time when I didn't think I was funny.
Really?
Yeah. I remember learning what joking was. We were playing Monopoly, and I was the youngest still at that point. I was like 2 or 3, so I was the dice roller. And either my brother or my sister landed in jail, and my dad was walking through the room, and he made a joke like, "Oh, that's where John belongs." And I remember being like, "What? How dare you?" And later, I was sitting on the dock. We're up in Wisconsin. I was sitting on the dock with my mom, and I said, "Why did Dad say that I belong in jail?" And my mom goes, "He was kidding." And that's when you like say, he didn't mean that. He was kidding. And I thought, oh, that's interesting.
It's wild that that's seared on your mind at that young age. Like, oh, you can say something like that and it can be funny.
Yeah, and you can say things that aren't so. Might have been the first time I realized that. I've noticed that with my son sometimes. Like, sometimes he wants to be Dr. Malcolm and he has a stethoscope, a toy stethoscope. And then later in the day, I'll call him Dr. Malcolm and he'll be like, "I'm not Dr. Malcolm, my name is Malcolm." And I said, "I know, I'm just pretending, that you're still Dr. Malcolm." Anyway, I do notice with kids that there's I've seen with my son, there's times when I'll call him a different name. He came in the room once and I went, "What's up, Silvio?" Because I was listening to this song called Silvio by Bob Dylan. I went, "What's up, Silvio? How you doing, Silvio?" And he goes, "My name isn't Silvio, it's Malcolm." I went, "I know, it's just a pretend name. Like, I know it's not your name." And he went, "My name's not Silvio." So he understood I was kidding, but he still drew a hard boundary.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Sometimes jokes just aren't funny.
No. Or he goes, "That's not for me.
Right,
You'll respect me."
Yeah. So we just saw you do stand-up not too long ago, and watching you do stand-up or in your specials, the audience is so with you. But I'd imagine, was there a time starting out when the audience wasn't always with you?
Yeah, there were some early times where it wasn't so much that the audience wasn't with me. I didn't know what I was putting out there. You grow up watching a ton of comedy. And I'm sick, but I'm not contagious, by the way, for all your viewers. You grow up watching comedy, and there were so many styles I liked, and so many comedians I liked, from like early radio to Chris Rock, The Simpsons, Conan, everything. So I just had no sense of what I even wanted to do myself, except that I wanted to be on stage doing stand-up. But I didn't know if that meant George Carlin or Stephen Wright or George Wallace or what. So I remember kind of trying out ways of being, and many of those falling flat.
How did you figure out what John Mulaney up on stage was?
I'd say, not to be corny, but I'm still figuring that out. It's a very kind of obvious lesson. You just kind of presenting some heightened version of your most authentic self is what works. And your most authentic self might be like strange, cryptic one-liners. Like, it's not like you have to be confessional or anecdotal about your life in order to be authentic. I know lots of
Wright, for
totally
example.
authentic to who he is. There's nothing more authentic about being personal. I think sometimes that gets confused in the way we talk about comedy.
The thing about you is that you're personal, but it's like jazz hands personal.
It is a bit, yeah. That was kind of the goal. At a certain point, I thought, I really like people like Spalding Gray. I really like Gene Shepard. I really like storytellers. And George Carlin had a lot of that too, like his Irish Catholic boyhood and stuff. Like storytellers who get into interesting personal details that are singular to them. They're not saying to the audience, "This is your life." They're saying, like, "This is my life." And when presented in a certain candid way, it's so disarming, people really see their own lives in it. I liked that a lot, but I also liked Bernie Mac and Def Jam and big personality comedians and really forceful performers like Paul F. Tompkins, who wears like 3-piece suits and is still telling personal stories that way. So I wanted the presentation of a Def Jam comic with sort of the nuanced personal stuff of a Spalding Gray. And I remember thinking that and setting out to do that. And I think that has sort of worked.
Yeah, it's really worked.
Oh, that's cool. Or that's when I'm happiest. When I'm going, this is a possibly unrelatable, not flattering story, but I'm telling it as if it's like a Vegas crowd-pleasing, mother-in-law joke. Suit, big energy, and then revealing something just odd.
Maybe humiliating.
Humiliating, unlikable, whatever, yeah.
That's great. You started wearing suits in 2012? Why?
No, I started in, what year did I do that special? I did a special called New in Town in 2011, and I wore a suit for that. And I started wearing a suit to get ready for that, to see if I was comfortable on stage in a suit.
Why did that make a difference to you, wearing a suit on stage?
Because I did a show at the Laughing Skull in Atlanta, really fun club there, and I was wearing a checkered button-down shirt and jeans, and there were 5 opening comics, because there's a great local scene there, so 5 people were on the show before me. They all wore the same thing as me, a checkered shirt and button-down jeans. Everyone in the audience was dressed like that. And I remember thinking, I'm 27. There's no reason I should have the microphone except that in this, con job of entertainment, I'm declaring that I'm the headliner. And I thought, I'd like to look like the headliner. And I'd like to look like the entertainer for the night. So no matter where you're going, you've gotten a sitter, you've paid the cover charge, you've gotten your dog crated and medicated, whatever you need to do to go out for the night. And as silly as it may be, and as sort of maybe corny as it may seem in 2011, like I'm gonna wear a suit because I'm the entertainer for the night. And also, it's a bit like I have to take charge of the room. Nothing I'm saying is important, so I have to act like it is.
And the suit helps with that.
Yeah, I'm in charge right now. Yeah.
That's great.
And then I'm sure there's some psychological thing with my dad that we don't have time to get into.
Oh, sure we do.
No, I also liked dressing up. As just kind of spoke to some old-fashioned thing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I get it. Speaking of your parents are both lawyers.
Yeah.
Were they always supportive of
No.
your comedy career?
No.
No.
But they knew enough not to be that vocal about it. It was like, we were 90s kids. So they knew enough pop psychology to say, we're not going to tell you, don't become a comedian, because then you'll do it and you'll resent us. They were just confused. My dad told me years later that he just didn't have any advice to give me. And that kind of, bothered him a little.
I'm sure they were scared too. It's not an easy business, don't you think? It's like...
But is anything?
I know. But I think in the 90s we thought being a lawyer might be a straight road, or being a doctor, or...
Yeah.
No,
and I don't mean that facetiously. Like, if I had some radiology practice, that could be struggling too.
That's very true.
No, I was a little naive. I was a lot naive. I just was like, this is gonna work. I don't know on what level, but I'm gonna be a comedian. It's just gonna work.
You thought that all along?
Yeah, it's not that flattering to say that about yourself, but I have kind of delusional high self-esteem when it comes to that.
I actually don't think that's a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, it's certainly helpful, but you like to go, oh, I doubted myself. With comedy, I don't know, since a very, very young age, I've just felt I've got that under control.
So in college, you were doing improv, and you kind of, even though you weren't sure exactly where you were headed, you knew it was in the comedy direction?
Oh yeah, I was choosing between writing, I wanted to be a writer for Late Night with Conan O'Brien and a stand-up, and liked improv. I was choosing between shades of eggshell white, dove white. There was nothing that far afield about my choices. They were all sort of New York comedy, writing sketches, doing stand-up.
And the truth is, you don't have to choose between those. That's kind of the beauty of the path that you've carved, is you can
It's
be
been
a
really
writer
fun.
and
Yeah.
a stand-up, and you can kind of do a little bit of all.
And I'm happiest, writing for other people too. So it's really nice to still get to do that.
You're happiest writing for other people?
Oh, my favorite, really, like writing something for Fred Armisen or Bill Hader, or writing when friends of mine have hosted award shows, and I email them some jokes and they do one of them, and I watch and see how it does, and then if it does well, I tell and there's someone else in the room, I wrote that joke. That's my favorite feeling. I really like that.
That's a better feeling than standing on stage and having the audience laugh at you delivering the material.
I wouldn't say it's better. It's just, it gets to some need or some kind of like, I wrote something funny, something like I got an A on the test, or I wrote something funny and it helped someone else.
That's nice.
It's nice. I also, please know, I tell everyone in the room I wrote it, so it's not like altruistic.
I'm a giver.
Yeah. Look how giving I am. I wrote that joke and gave it to him.
So I know you've said this before, but I think people assume that you auditioned for Saturday Night Live, they offered you a writer job,
Yeah.
and to a lot of people, I think, looking at that, they say, oh, that must have been so disappointing. But for
Oh, no,
you,
not at all. Not at all. I don't know. I didn't have any disappointment when I got the job, and when I started the job, any possibility of disappointment was gone. Being a writer there is the most interesting, dynamic job in show business. You have NBC for 4 to 5 minutes. It's crazy. It was so educational and fun.
forgive me if this is a naive question, but is sobriety something that you have to think about every day?
Well, that's a good question. You know, it's, you know what I'm doing now? I'm thinking about if someone's watching this and I say no, they'll go, oh, be careful, right? So I'll acknowledge that I understand the vigilance I need. I do not think about it every day. I don't think about cocaine, opioids, and benzodiazepine every day. I don't. I do think about the ways that I can lead my life to perhaps never feel the kind of strain that got me there. So yeah, sobriety maybe being like a bigger term than just abstaining from the chemicals. I definitely think about it.
That makes sense.
I have two very, very special little people that I care about more than anything else. So that means that as long as they're okay, I'm okay, which means that I do what I have to do to make it feel like I'm taking care of them. That's kind of a clunky answer. I would say that you know what it really is? I go to bed good with myself every night. Because no day is perfect at all. And trying to treat the people in my work life with respect and pursue the things I really want to do because I'm lucky enough to get that chance and to make the show as good as it can be and not letting up on that. You know, it wasn't like when I got sober, I made a choice to be the best personal life person I can be, and then everything else can fall aside. I sort of expanded. Getting off drugs and having my son and now my daughter, I just kind of grew. Like, that sounds very cliche, but I actually I have the bandwidth now to do both. And I found it's really important to do both. And to feel like I did a good job at the show today, and Malcolm and I went to a trampoline park, and May's tummy time was a big success. And I also feel good about myself. And, you know, that feeling of when I get off stage, you know, as I said, I have high self-esteem about that, I can sort of go to bed going, okay, that was good. And that means a lot.
That's huge. Did you not feel good about yourself before? Was that
I wouldn't. I was just so not present. I lived in my head completely. So it was kind of a bad neighborhood. And I felt bad about myself in a variety of ways, yeah.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
So you touched on fatherhood, talk about cliches. I'm going to ask it anyway. How do you think fatherhood changed how you look at the world?
How I look at the world. I'm in the world now that I'm a father. My head was my only home before that. And I'm just there. Like it's both the absolute pleasure of being in the company of those two kids. And I don't know, it's like I met, when my son was born, the first thought I had was, I went, oh, there you are. And when my daughter was born, I had this not to sound woo-woo or anything.
Oh, be woo-woo.
But when she was born, I went, oh, this is my thought was like, I was like, oh, we've met before. I've collided with you some other time. So it's like these people came in that just, I don't know, make me like the world a lot more. And they're so, and a billion other things I could say. Sometimes I'm nervous about summing up fatherhood because I don't know, I worry I don't sound, I just articulate about it, but.
That was incredibly articulate.
Oh, that's nice, okay.
And, yes, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that.
Not.
But
I expected
it's
it.
clearly a big part of your story, right?
100%.
Another big part, and not to get all fangirl, but your wife, Olivia.
Yeah.
The way that she has handled this cancer journey is amazing. She's changed people's lives. She's saved people's lives. Does she
It's incredible.
amaze you?
With how much she likes to keep private, like the desire to come forward was really brave, but it was also really specific. It was really deliberate. There's this lifetime risk assessment test that is really the only reason her cancer was discovered. And she thought it was absolutely paramount that other women know about it and get it done. And seeing so many women publicly and privately come to her that they discovered how high their risk was from that. It's astonishing. It's like, this is a weird way to talk about cancer. I've never seen someone set out to do something and kill it so hard. It was just like, I'm going to spread the word about this, and she did, and she did it in the midst of still going through her own treatment, and yeah.
What's it been like for you to see her do all of this, to go through this, and then to share it with the world?
You know, being sick is a full-time job. From the day she was diagnosed, the next day she had to meet with an oncologist, meet with a surgical oncologist, talk to a couple different doctors. I mean, you really have to find the doctor that you respond to. Communication with your oncologist is so essential. Like being like, I can text this person, I can call my oncologist, they will walk me through this. You know, it was like watching someone take on this full-time job. There was such a present scramble with scheduling your double mastectomy and starting hormone therapy and then having an oophorectomy. Then we wanted to have another child, so we were fertilizing eggs, or we were creating embryos before that. I mean, it was just like, it was so full-time, and then adding the outreach she did to it. It's so cool. It's so like, not intimidating. It's a little intimidating. No, it's, I I have this feeling a lot of times I go, I can't believe I know this person, let alone am married to her. And then I worry, don't take on too much. And but her health is so important to her, obviously, and with the amount she gives to our family, it's like watching someone who isn't losing themselves in something. They've expanded to be like two people.
Now I'm back to the work things. When you have someone like David Letterman say you restored his faith in the art of stand-up, and he said it straight-faced.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, he meant it. I mean, how do you wrap your mind around that?
I don't. I watched that interview with Letterman, and I was like, good for this young guy getting all these compliments. There is a bit of like,
It's not me.
it's not that it's not me, but I sort of go like, oh, that must have been nice. The actual, there's a little disconnect with something that flattering and surreal. It was great. Compliments are great. You shouldn't let things go to your head, but I've also learned, this is a big sobriety thing, is when someone tells you something very nice, just take it. A lot of people will tell you you're not a great person. So when people say, I love your work, or you're great at this, just take it.